Welcome to this edition of Rattling the Bars. I'm your host, Mansa Musa. Eric King. Eric King is a father, poet, author, and activist. In December of 2023, he was released from the federal Supermax ADX prison after spending nearly 10 years as a political prisoner for an act of protest over the police murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. He was held in solitary confinement for years due to his radical resistance and was met with violence by guards throughout his incarceration. Eric has published 3 zines and co-edited Rattling the Cages, All History of North American Political Prisoners in 2023. Eric now works as a paralegal for the Bread and Rose Legal Clinic. Welcome, Eric, to Rattling the Bars.
Glad to be back. Nice talking to you again.
Most definitely. And for the benefit of our Eric is no stranger to the real news or Rattling the Bar. So, Eric, okay, let's start by talking about the book that we're here to discuss today. A Clean Hell, an anarchist and abolitionist in America's most notorious dungeon. And here we talking about, you wrote a book about specifically your experience in what is known as the Supermax, the Ultra Supermax, Florence, Colorado, AEX. And in it, you outline a series of chapters that evolved into the conclusion where you ultimately got out. Okay, the term "a clean hell," and I've been in Supermax. I did 4.5 years in what they call the Supermax in Maryland, Baltimore, and it was basically a control unit. You had 12 people on the pod. We never interacted with each other. All the movement was controlled. When you came out, you had to turn around, put your handcuff from the back, taking out a yard by yourself. It was the only difference between this and the ADX. It was a small version, but it was founded on the principle of the Supermax principle, control unit. And one thing I noticed about it when I got in there was how quiet it was.
Oh my God.
Talk about how'd you come up with this name, A Clean Hell?
That saying comes from this punk ass warden that used to be the warden of ADX. And he was describing it to like ABC News. And he was saying that the prison, usually prisons are like kind of, like dingy, like gross places. But this prison looks clean. It looks pristine. It looks new.
Right.
But you go inside it, and it is just a soul-sucking, desolate hell. Like you were not provided any joy, any stimulation. You got to find that yourself. And I'd read about that shit before, and I didn't understand how real it was.
Right.
Like, I didn't understand what weeks and months of silence can do to someone's psyche. And that's serious. Like, that can tear people apart if you're not conscious of what's happening to you.
And the evolution, okay, so let's talk about the evolution of, well, before we unpack some of the nuances of this hellhole. The evolution of the Supermax, it started with, in this country, the concept of it started with Alcatraz, the isolation, and what you talking about, silence. Because it was mandated that you talk, you make any noise. After they lock them doors, they're gonna bring you out and beat you and put you back or put you in the hole, put you back. So this evolved out of that concept. The perspective of silence and control. Silence and control evolved out of Alcatraz. Then they close Alcatraz and they create Marion.
Yes.
And they create Marion, same principle, only difference is the control they had, the control that they was using, they phased in different aspects of allowing people to have access to each other or to interact at some juncture. Then you had Terry Hutt, okay, and all these, the control mechanism was not in the prison in and of itself. It wasn't like Marion is a control unit. Marion went into a shutdown mode after a number of murders that took place. Then they locked it down completely. But the control mechanism, and you can pick up from here, the control mechanism might have been a section in
Yeah.
Marion. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Marion's they called it a Supermax when it first opened, but it wasn't like we have now. Like they still had several hours out of their cells. They could still congregate with people. But when the brand, the Aryan Brotherhood, they butchered 2 cops in the same day somehow. Like they didn't lock down after the first one. And once that happened, it became a full control unit. And once they had that unit, they started filling it not just with dangerous prisoners, but with influential prisoners or radical
Mm-hmm.
prisoners.
Right.
That's when you saw a lot of the Black liberation cats go there, the white political prisoners, Leonard Peltier, the Puerto Ricans.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that they can use these supermaxes to shut down dissent. And after about 20 years, the Merit Control Unit finally got shut down. But while that was happening, they were already building ADX because they saw in Pelican Bay that you can really isolate
Right.
people.
Right.
And so they took they had the same architect, take a version of Pelican Bay, shrink it, make it a little more controlled, um, and then put the federal prisoners in there and they sold it. They sold it to the public, they sold it to Congress, and they created this shoebox. Ray Luke called them rail like box cells
Right.
because they're
Right.
all
Like
concrete.
yeah, like you take them to concentration camp,
Yeah, so
like a train.
I can't hear nobody. I can't hit on the wall and play
Yeah.
chess, have a conversation. So they wanted to take it to the next level, and they did. Like they have no qualms taking things to that extent.
Talk about the structure of the ADX for the benefit of our audience, because we hear a lot of things, and you hear, oh, it's underground. They bring the shower to your door. They open the back of your cell. You go out in the yard. You come back in. Like a lot of futuristic stuff. Talk
Yeah.
about the reality of it.
So ADX is like, I guess it's underground because it's built into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't see anything except for other parts of like other walls, other like the walls of the other units. But it's broken down into about 12 units. Right now I think they only have 6 or 7 open, but each unit has 4 levels. Downstairs A, upstairs A, downstairs B, upstairs B. And
Mm-hmm.
each unit has 6 to 8 cells in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your law library is. That's where your inside rec is. Your outside rec is either in a concrete box by yourself or in a dog kennel.
Right.
And in your cells, you have 2 doors. You have the inside door, which is where the cops bring you your food and laundry and shit. And then 4 feet away from that is the outside steel door. And so they have you really contained. And it's very similar to what you said, to where if you leave the cell, you're handcuffed behind your back. You have 2 guards on you. One of them has a baton at all times. But the units are small, and they're small so that they can control and isolate them if anything
Mm.
happens.
Right.
To get into the unit, you have to pass through two doors basically just to get to the unit.
Right. Right.
Everything is electronic. Um, like when they open the doors, the guards can't just open the doors. The bubble has to do it.
Right. 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 Right.
And depending on what unit you're in, depends on the amount of access you have. But every unit is at least 23 hours lockdown, usually 24. We don't
Right.
get wreck every day. You know that. And the showers are in our cells in most units except for the H unit. And you press the button, you get 30 seconds of water every time you press it. Um, but your life is that box. Like you don't
Right.
have an existence outside of that box anymore.
And that right there, everything you described, the Supermax and the Maryland in Maryland and Baltimore, it was identical in this regard. You had pods, A pod, B pod, C pod, D pod, E pod, F pod. But on each pod, it was 4 sections. and each section had 6 people, bottom, 6 on the bottom, 6 on the top. Same principle, same identical principle that you just outlined. So the architect of this and its designs, it wasn't so much the architect of the design, it was the intent behind his design to like control, and a lot of dealt with a lot of sensory deprivation in terms of the whole goal, because if the isolation in and of itself, even if I give you a mechanism like a TV or radio, even if I give you something, it's still the lack of human contact, the lack of the ability to exercise my senses outside of this box. You talked about, in one of your sections, you talked about the new, you say a new type of institutionalization. Talk about that. As we unpack, because this is the impact of this environment.
So normal prison institutionalization is violence. You're institutionalized to have fight or flight at all times. You're institutionalized not to trust people. You're institutionalized to be wary of everyone, to be on guard. And ADX reverses that. And now you're institutionalized to not trust yourself.
Yeah, come on. Talk about
You're
it.
institutionalized to, like, you don't have senses. You can't hear shit. You can't smell fresh air. And when this happens to you, when the guards and the institution continually treat you like you're trash, you can start internalizing that whether you realize it or not. You can start internalizing that maybe I am violent, maybe I am one of the worst. And you become institutionalized to isolation. Like, it becomes hard to be around people then. It becomes hard to accept senses and voices once you're finally released. And all that emotion that you have to keep inside, like, that it has to come out eventually or you're gonna be hurt. Like, you're gonna hurt people around you. And so
Right.
that's how they institutionalize you, by breaking down your sense of self.
And in this regard, you talked about how you was able to, like, what you did to try to combat that conditioning. And so talk about what your plan was and how you was able to, because like we leave, George Jackson talked about this in Soul Dad, bro. He said that, he was not gonna leave. If I leave here alive, I'm gonna leave nothing behind. They won't count me amongst the broken men. And the broken men that he was talking about, it wasn't so much as them being broke. It was that their spirit was broke. That the goal was, he said, the goal is to kill our individuality. So now I'm functioning on herd instinct. Talked about how, because now we're in an environment where no matter what I think, I'm here. I know the first thing they take away from me is my sense of hope. And when I come in the environment, oh, you here until we let you go. So it's not like you here and you go up every year and the prospect of getting out. We're letting you know from the beginning that you're here until we let you go or until your time is up. Whichever comes first. And in most cases, your time being up. And in some cases, you're not going to get out because your time is indefinite. So talk about how you was able to deal with it and come out with your sanity and enough sanity to be able to like advocate for changes in these environments and the abolition of these environments.
Yeah. So I had 2 advantages. Like, the first one was, like, I just done 5 years straight in the SHU with constant, like, I didn't have any communication with my family for 5.5 years. So I already had that taken away, so I was kinda ready for that. But I also had an out date. I knew that, like, no matter what, I'm gonna be out here in 2 years. And that's a blessing because a lot of the men there don't have out dates. They'll never get out. And I met people there that had been in for 25 years in that prison, and they were never going to get released. And so I also saw and heard about men that were paralyzed by the TV. The
Right,
TV
right.
became their new chain.
Mm-hmm.
They got stuck watching, and they'd watch the fucking news and Big Bang Theory from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And that was their life now.
Yeah.
And I read books like George Jackson. I read Ray Luke. I read Tom Manning. I read about Marion. So when I got there, I knew instantly that I have to be the one that determines my value and what my
That's
days
right.
are
Come
worth.
on. Mm-hmm.
And so I would give meaning to every day, and I would give meaning to every object within that day. Cleaning my cell was a victory. Doing my burpees was a victory. Walking my laps was a victory. That was me winning over them. And that's the way I framed it, is that I will create value to where they've tried to take it away. And that's a form of resistance when they say nothing means anything. And now you say everything means something. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to take shit away from me. And so I had to do that. I had to have a routine, and that routine had to be tight because if it got taken away, if it got fucked up, it felt like my whole world was falling apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if they come and shake down the cell in the morning, I don't get to do my burpees or clean my cell. They they struck a blow. But as long as I can maintain that sense that like I have value, what I'm doing has value, it creates dopamine in your brain. It tells you that you are doing something rewarding and something productive and that you have meaning. And that's a revolutionary act to have meaning in the face of hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And I took strength from people like George. I took strength from people that had been through this shit. I didn't know you then, but like I would have taken strength from you.
Right.
Um, these people that paved the way teach us how to resist.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's experience is a little different, but we can all learn from each other. And I had to do that, or I would have fallen apart.
And it's ironic that you talk about the routine because when I did a lot of time in segregation, so I was already accustomed like being locked behind the door. So
Yeah,
that the lack of movement wasn't a problem for me. But in doing and going the prep like it's preparation like you say you're bending this shoe. All right, the preparation that's like as it might sound as insane as it might sound, but it did prepare us for the most extreme forms of sensory deprivation or the most extreme forms of torture. When I was like in Supermax, I had a routine. I was there, I was an escape risk. So I was subjected to coming to my cell 3 times a day, 3 times on each shift, once on each shift, to search my cell. And one shift they might come like right away. When the shift change, they might come and just do it and get it out the way. The 4 to 12 might come and do it and get it out the way. But the 12 to 8 would play games. They would wait till they see me in their sleep, wake me up, and then, have me into like a state of mind where I'm agitated. But my routine was,
they want that too.
yeah, and my routine was I didn't cut the TV on until like 5 o'clock. I I listened to I had the radio on, I listened to talk shows like from 1 to something, from 7 to 6, me and another guy studied Spanish outside. We taught each other Spanish outside the door. From 6 o'clock to 7, we did that. But the point that I'm making is that the routine kept kept my mind agile. And so I never got frustrated at the fact that, like I told you earlier, the first thing they took away from you when you went into Maryland Supermax was you only getting out here when we want to let you out here. So if we take you up every year for review, we're just doing that because that's what the procedures say.
Oh yeah.
That's what the courts say. Courts say you have to be reviewed. But in terms of what we're going to decide, what we're going to do, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to status quo. But talk about, you had a chapter here called Stolen Moments of Freedom. Talk about that, the stolen moments of freedom. How was you able to steal moments of freedom in this environment? Or what was freedom? What was this freedom that you're talking about?
Freedom. I like what you say too. Like it's really interesting hearing how like other people's experiences were because we were in different states, we were in different institutions, we were in different custodies, like federal, state, but it's all created the same. They all learn from each other about how to evolve
Yeah,
and how to like find new techniques to hurt us and cause us to like hurt ourselves basically with playing into their hands. So my freedom was based off the moments where I didn't let them hurt me. It
right,
was
right,
based off
right,
looking outside and seeing the sunlight, that little inch that we had, and knowing that there's life out there. It was the brief moments of being able to write my family and feel like Eric, not feel
right,
like
right,
political prisoner, not feel like
right, right,
270.
right, right.
It was being me. And just like I said with the routine, when I was able to do these small things and feel like myself, that's when I knew I was free and I had a foot out the door. But it was also like when they would try to piss me off and I wouldn't let them.
Right.
When they would do this bullshit, like rip up the mail or like drop it outside your door knowing you can't get it. And instead of like losing my shit and having them bring the sort team, I laughed at 'em, laughed in their face. Like, "You can't
Right.
break me. Like, your
Right.
power is over." And when you have family, when you have hope, when you have ethics, you can claim bits of freedom from them and retain who you are. And that's the opposite of what they want. And I wouldn't give them what they wanted.
And I think I'm trying to think his name of the book. I think it was Eric Frankel. Wrote a book about the Nazi concentration camp,
Yeah.
and in that he talked about that right there. What you talking about? How in this most dire environment where the Germans are playing mind games uh, everybody get on this bus, you go on a detail and you gonna get extra whatever, but they take you out and shoot you. The next day, they say everybody get on the bus, and then you petrified about getting on the bus. Everybody get on the bus, they go to detail. Everybody left behind, they shoot them, and each time they play a mind game. But like you say, in terms of the mind game, the how important was it, or how important was you for you to hold on to that sense? That it might seem to people in society, it might seem like a little trivial, trite, getting a letter, uh, but how important was it in being able to say, yeah, I'm good, I'm free, or being able to write some, oh yeah, I got my clarity of thing. How important was that for you to hold on to in the face of what you was going through?
Yeah. So, like, the UN did a study and found that like 14 days in segregation is the period to where people start breaking down mentally if they're not prepared. And holding on to my ethics was what gave me strength. So, like, I went a long time without letters, like, where they wouldn't allow me mail, where they wouldn't allow me phone calls, wouldn't allow me visits. So when I finally got just a pinch of those, I knew that, like, I was ready. Like, I had this. I'm loved. People care about me. I am worth someone putting in that effort. Because if someone writes you a letter, it's not just, here's a punk ass letter. They have to sit down. They have to consciously do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's showing that you're worth it. And that helps you reclaim your sense of self, reclaim your sense of, all right, I'm not alone. I don't have to face this fight alone. I can lean into people. I can have hope. I can have love. I can have conversations. And just knowing that people care is enough to push you forward at least a little bit longer, because you just
Yeah,
need to survive that one day
yeah.
and then survive the next day. But if you take it one day at a time, and that one day you were loved, and that one day people wanted you around, and that one day people saw a future for you, that helps you see it for yourself. And once you have that, you can't be beaten.
And and in terms of you spoke on like right there. Let's talk about the demographics, because here we talked earlier about when they build these environments, they build them, they brand them that the people that's coming in this ADX is Al Qaeda, anti-American, uh, terrorists, uh, Charles Manson, mass murderers, the worst of the worst coming in this environment. Talk about, is that what actually was that the population? More importantly, how many people do ADX hold? And was that the total amount of people, the demographics, when you say you spoke about the demographic, talk about the demographic, but more importantly, how many people did ADX supposed to hold?
So ADX can hold 450. When I was there, it had 354 because they're
Okay.
having a hard time finding people to fit that criteria. Um, like, eventually they just started putting like, I was essentially a filler. They needed a white leftist in there,
Right.
basically. So they gave me a leadership status, and that's how they get most people in there. They make up this bullshit claim of leadership. But there were, like, by the way, I'm anti-American and I have a terrorist charge. Um, but there were the people that they say are the worst of the worst, and I met some of them. Like, yelling from my dog kennel to their windows. I write about Richard Reed, the shoe bomber,
Right.
and I refuse to let the government's definition of people determine how I view them. Like, I'm not going to judge you based off your actions against the U.S. government. I'm not in Afghanistan or Pakistan or these areas getting bombed, so it's not my place to judge you. And those people are in there, like people that did bombings, people that it's probably like 3%. There's like probably 40 of those cats.
Right.
All of them are seemingly Muslim. Um, and then like the Oklahoma City bombers in there, some of the Eric Rudolph, the Olympic bomber, people like that. There's a couple, but most of the people I met were like black gang leaders or Mexican gang leaders. And when I
Right.
say gang, that's the prison's definition.
Right. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And so I met so many cats from DC that they just called too powerful. Um,
Right.
One of the people I was closest with, I met him in the pre-release unit. His name was Shahid, and he was a DC black Muslim, and he'd been in there for 19 years.
Mm.
And his whole thing was leadership. You're too influential. Like he
Right.
was too influential as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and so like Wayne Perry's there, Silk,
Right.
and you probably know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd been in there for gosh damn like 30 years, something like that in lockdown, ADX for 20. And it's not because you're still like killing cops or being violent. It's because they know you can inject consciousness into people.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're a white gang leader, if you can get people to think, you can have a lot of control and they shut that shit down.
Right.
Um, and so I'd say the vast majority of the people I met were either murderers, like murder happens in prison.
Right.
It's the nature of the game, or people that just were able to connect with people on a deeper level. And like cats like Larry Hoover, he'd been there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, his whole thing was you're too powerful. But that
Right.
power is getting people to think and act on their own outside of the prison's guidelines. And I'd say that's a vast majority of people there.
And the goal is the goal is ultimately for these environments is to control your thinking and
Oh yeah.
give and like you say, give up hope. Once you give up hope, my whole goal when I was locked up in prison was, and I had multiple attempted escapes. I probably go down the World Book of Guinness for the most failed attempted escapes. My goal was I could die on the other side of that fence. I just ain't want to die on the side of the fence that where I was held captive.
Um,
I could get on the other side of the fence and fall out. Long as I know that I was free. That's the only thing and that's what drove me. What drove me was that I'm not gonna let them beat me down to the point where I just give up. I'm not, Claude McKay said, best say, back against the wall, dying, but fighting back. Well, as we get ready to wrap this up, talk about the two things. When the fascists control the keys and anti-fascist political prisoner. Talk about those two things. When the fascists control the keys, and this is, I think you was going into the mentality of the God, and talk about that, and then talk about you being the only anti-fascist
yeah.
political prisoner in ADX, because according to them, ADX supposed to be, all your comrades supposed to be there. Everybody from whoever to whatever to however supposed to be in there based on the design of this and the intent behind it.
Yeah. So you were talking about your hope, by the way. Your whole thing that gave you hope was get on the other side. My whole hope was my wife and kids.
That's
I
right.
had a
We had
wife.
to hope for something. Yep.
Yeah, she wanted me home, and so that I have to get home for her. And so that was my hope. And so when the fascists have the keys, I'm sure you experienced this, but these dudes are Nazis. They have
Yeah.
like Nazi badges on their vest. They took these guards to fight the George Floyd's protesters in DC and other cities, and they had badges like commemorating that. They had like that stupid Punisher skull. They had the tattoos. And these cats are the ones that control your mail. They control your access to the phone, your access to visits. And when the people that control you are the people that hate you the most, you are in a dangerous spot.
Mhm.
Um, and we have their social media accounts. Like I put that in the book. Uh, they're talking about how much they hate Muslims, how much they hate blacks, how much
Right.
they hate Antifa. But then you're supposed to guard us, and there's no oversight. Like when I'm getting pubic hair in my food, who's holding them accountable?
Right.
The fascist government, and they want this to happen. And so that's a dangerous game you gotta learn to play. And like I've got the scars on my head from like guards cracking my head open.
Right.
And that's not an accident. They hate us.
Right.
I'm an anti-racist prisoner. Like I roll, like I stand up for against Nazis, against white power. And they hate that shit. Um, and as far as like being the only anti-fascist, like when Trump called Antifa a
Mm.
terrorist organization, what he was saying was race traitors are terrorists.
Right.
And because what does anti-fascism stand for? Essentially, we're anti-racist, anti-transphobe, anti-government bigotry. And I think they needed someone, and they chose me. It could have been, if there was more in there, it could have probably been someone else. Like we all know that. Like if it wasn't me, it would have been somebody.
That's right.
And I had to fight on that. I had to fight other Nazi prisoners. I had to fight guards. And when you get an ADX, you know you're vulnerable because they control everything. You have no control over anything in your life except for up there, except for in your head. So it was it's scary. Like they still hate anti-fascists. Like they're still
Mhm.
raiding our houses. They're still arresting us in the streets. But they're also doing that to black people every day and brown people every day. So we're not victims here. We are combatants. We are allies. And that's the way I saw myself was them putting me in there was a vindication of my movement.
That's
They
right.
were they were vindicating my resistance. And I forget who said that. It was an elder black revolutionary, but that's what they said. And I kept that in my heart. That them putting me in here is showing why I was right.
Right.
What they're doing to Shahid is proving to me why I have this fight going because I
Mhm.
see your hatred and I'll call it out, and not everyone will. But I will call that shit out. I will put you on blast. I will fight you
Yeah, that's right.
because you're wrong and right
Right.
is right. And so I think that's the difference. And I think that's why they hate anti fascists. That's why they hate conscious or like hip to it black prisoners. That's why they hate Muslim prisoners because we will not bow down. We will fight back however we have it, either with the pen, with the fist, with the mind. And that's what anti fascism in prison is all about. It's all about being an ally in this struggle. And they hate that shit so much.
Thank you. And what you want to tell people about the book and how they can get it, and more importantly, how they can stay connected with you as we wrap this up.
Yeah, so the book comes out and we pushed it forward. It was going to be January. Now it's going to be late September, early October. And I want people to understand that this book isn't just about me. This book is highlighting how these men are treated because they don't have a voice. Like a lot of men in there will never get their stories out. They won't hear how commissary is used as a weapon. They
Mhm.
won't hear how your family is used as a weapon. They won't
Mhm.
hear how the guards treat us and how this mentally affects us. But I do have that ability. And because I have that blessing, I have to use it. And so I encourage people to read the book, not to hear about like poor Eric, but to inspire them to fight for these men that they'll never know. Because there's 350 people in there, and I guarantee most people that read that book will have maybe heard of two of them: Chapo and the Boston Marathon bomber.
Yeah.
But there are people in there that still have hope, that are refusing to give up. And there's people in there that have given up and they need love too. Like people need to
Mhm.
hear how this breaks us. And I also talk about winning at trial in there because no one in the feds goes to trial. So I talk about that, like what it's like to go to trial and win.
Right.
And these things are things that there's no books about ADX.
That's
There's not
right.
one. And so I've got the market cornered. Uh, and so, but so that's important to me that people understand because there can be more of us as they crack down. Luigi is gonna go to ADX. A lot of these Palestine protesters and ICE protesters, they might end up there. And it's on us to be prepared and have the infrastructure ready to support people when they are there. And that's crucial to me. It's crucial to me not to just talk about myself, but to lift up the other men and hopefully make a positive change in their lives also.
All
The
right.
book's on PM Press. You can buy it there or anywhere else.
Okay. And you know, for the benefit of our audience, I just want to put in context about who Erg is, because we have examples of someone or people that stormed the Capitol, beat the police, firebomb. We got examples of like insurrection, what they call an insurrection, but was a riot. So you would think that the Erg committed a crime or was involved with something to the same caliber or beyond at the way he's being treated, because those people that stormed the Capitol, they were sent to D.C. City Jail. They cried and they pissed, moaned, and groaned about their conditions, and had the federal judge order them to clean up the jail. Erg was put in this situation that he's in now because he had the heart, the consciousness, and the soul to stand up for poor and oppressed people and not allow himself to be put into a class system where it was him, his race against other races, but put in a system where it's us against them, and the them is the fastest capitalist, imperialist people that runs this country. There you have it. The real news and Rattling the Bars. Erg, you rattling the bars today, Erg, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you taking time out to educate our audience. We asking our audience to look into what Erg is saying, but more importantly, look into what he just said as he closed out. It's human beings in these places that we're talking about. You have Florida Alligator Alcatraz. You have, ain't no telling what other black sites they've got people in that people don't have no way of getting the information out. But at least we have someone who took it upon themselves to say, I'm gonna make sure everybody know what this ADX is really about and how your money, the taxpayers' money, y'all paying for this. And y'all, if y'all, that's what y'all want y'all money to go to, then say that. But if y'all know y'all money going somewhere it ain't supposed to go, then you need to stand up and say, enough is enough. Thank you. There you have. We ask that you continue to support the real news and Rattling the Bars. We ask that you send your comments in. Tell us what you think. It's important that we hear your voice, because we don't give you a voice. We just turn the volume up on your voice. And with the state that we are in now in this country, it's important that the volume of our voices, the voices of resistance, be loud and clear.